Hi everyone, it's nice to be here.
It's great to have this opportunity to catch up with you a little bit.
I know I'm like a moving target
You
some
really
days.
are.
I really
You
am.
really are.
I'm really like a moving target.
You've been nonstop for 7 weeks or
Yeah,
more.
7 weeks or more. Yeah, and then before that we were camping, so quite quite the busy life. And then before that, I'm just busy anyway.
Yeah.
Many of my signs are just fire. So
All right. So this is who you are anyway.
who I am, who I am. I'm always going. So although I do like quiet sometimes.
Quiet is important.
Yeah, it is. It's nice to be able to be here and sit
Yeah.
and have time to relax. And
Digest some of the stuff that's happened to you.
yeah, I never would have imagined that I would be, one of my dear friends. I'll never forget. She said, "So you don't want to give the best of you?" And I was like, "Nope, I'm good. I just want to live a quiet life." Now I look back and I'm like, "Oh, Mama had different plans for me."
Yeah.
To live the
Threw you in
best
the
of
deep
me.
end.
Yeah, he threw me in the deep end for sure. Everyone says to me, "Oh, Inga, how did this happen?" And I was like, "Well, that's an interesting story."
Yeah.
We got back from camping 5 weeks. We drove through the gorge. I don't know if you know, we drove through Thursday night right before, I think the next, like early that morning is when it kind of collapsed, and we got home like around 1 in the morning.
You got home just before
Just before the storm hit. And so, well, it had been raining for days, and so the waters were already high. And so anyway, yeah, we came in that night. We had like a few hours of sleep, like maybe 3 or 4. Put the kids in the basement. Will woke up Elowen and put her downstairs. The two boys were already in the basement. Michael Ivy was at our house.
He was already at your house.
Yeah, he had been watching our house for a month because we were
Right.
camping. And so we had been camping for 5 weeks. And so we were really exhausted from camping. And then we had to camp again.
Yeah,
So it's like-
exactly. An extended camping trip.
Extended camping trip, but we'd already had it down pat,
Right.
and we love camping, so that's not a big deal. Living with flashlights and tents and stuff.
So you lost power.
So we lost power. Lost power, trees were going down, we lost a car, we lost part of our fence, we
You
lost,
did lose a car.
yeah, part of a building on our property that our kids do homeschooling in, and the roof had gotten hit. And Michael was gonna go to Seven and Huma's, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna leave." And I was like, I was
Wait a
looking
minute.
outside. I was like, "Michael, this isn't looking good. I don't think it's time yet." And so he gets in his car to go leave, and he comes back and he's like, "Can't do that. There's multiple trees down." So he comes back, and within like a few hours, one of my neighbors had moved our trees. So people had called us and
What?
said, "Hey, we want to come and help people get out." And I was like, "Well, all that kind of happened within the first few, like literally hours to days. Like it was when nobody actually could get a hold of us." So that morning I had called my mom and my dad, and I said, "Hey, we're home. I just want to let you know we're okay. The hurricane hit, but we're okay." And then the phone lines went dead for probably 4 days, I think it was, that we had no cell signal.
Right.
So, I remember that morning, I actually like walked out, and Will said we should go look in the backyard because trees had been falling quite extensively. And I said, "Okay." I said, "Do you think it's safe?" And we started walking out there, and I remember the feeling of disorientation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember feeling like, "Oh my God, I have no idea where I am in my own backyard." It was so disorienting because there was so much destruction just in my backyard.
Yeah.
We have, an acre and a half maybe, and, tons of trees had fallen down because we're surrounded by a lot of woods.
Right.
And so, anyway, when we went back out there, like, I just, I planted so many different plants and things in the backyard, and I just couldn't imagine what it looked like because there were so many open areas, and
It was just missing.
it was
Everything
just
was missing.
it was just missing. Like things had just fallen, and there was a lot of water, like a creek. And years before that, I had a dream that I had a river running through my backyard, and that's literally what it looked like. So it was quite extraordinary. amounts of damage. And so the first thing Will and I did was, Will said, let's go check it out. So we got in the car because they had moved the trees away, and we went for a little drive, and we ran into one of our friends. So I was like, oh my God, you're okay, and gave him a hug. And then what we saw was, you know, all the grocery stores had lost power, and the people who were there, it was cash only.
Right.
Lines were already forming at gas stations, and there was no pumps, you know, available, and people were already starting to, you know, kind of panic. And that was like less than, you know, a few hours after. And so Will and I looked at each other, and he's like, I think we need to go back home. And I was like, okay. And then so we went back home, and we just started helping. You know, Will was talking to my neighbor, and he had a tree fall down that was blocking his driveway. And so, you know, we all kind of sat there. I think we were just still in shock. And so the next like 2 days, Sadie and I ended up going out. We had a friend who we had talked to her that morning, and she was having a huge anaphylactic reaction to something. She had just had surgery. And so I said to Will, I got to go get her. I got to go find her and see if she's okay. And he's like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And I said, well, I got to go try, you know, because I was really concerned about her. And anyway, so Sally and I left, and we started driving up towards Weaverville, Marshall area. And when we had gotten up to the bridge where the French Broad River crosses over Patton Avenue, the water had actually come all the way up to the bridge and over the bridge.
Wow.
And that's huge, right along the River Arch District.
That's a ridiculous height
I mean,
of
it's
water,
like,
right?
I don't know, 40 feet of water. I mean,
Wow.
it was so extraordinary amounts of water. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But we kept going up further, and we got into Marshall area, and everybody was, you could see, was agitated. People were, you know, standing in line beeping, and there were lines everywhere, and nothing was really open. People were just stopped, like stationary, waiting to see if people would get gas, because gas was out, and they were arguing and fighting, and I was like, oh boy. And I remember looking at Sadie, and I was like, we got to go. We got to get home. We're not going to make it out there. And I realized at that point really how bad it was.
Right.
And when I looked at the bridge, I was like, oh, this is not good. Not good at all. And so I went home, and I didn't stay to look to see, like, you know, if people had died or anything like that. That wasn't kind of like on my mind at first. Although I'm sure there were tons of people that had already, you know, passed and needed rescuing. I wasn't in that frame of mind, honestly.
Yeah. You wouldn't think of it.
I didn't think of it at all, actually. And so, anyway, we went back home, and I was still in shock, and they just started, you know, working with chainsaws around the house and getting stuff done for our neighbors. And I think it was like day 3 or 4, maybe, that we got cell phone service back. And that's when people kept calling me to ask. And what was so fascinating was I had one patient, and this is like the coolest story ever, but I had one patient who I didn't know was a new patient to our clinic, and she had said she needed help because they were sick. And I said, oh gosh, honey, you know, I'm in the midst of this hurricane.
Yeah, right.
And I said,
I'm
just kind of coming up for air. And she's like, oh, I really could use help. My husband's super sick. And I said, sure, I'll do that. And so I got her husband some medicines, and then I just, you know, said, please pray for us. It's really bad here. I'm not sure all what's happening yet, but I feel like it's really bad. So she said, absolutely. And she says, is there anything that I can do? And I said, well, I just called my friend, and I had just called one of my friends, and I said, I feel like I need to help. Give me all the contacts that you have in this area. And so he had put me in contact with people from churches and fire marshal people, like people in fire departments. And so I made a list of 12 people, and I gave her the list, and I said, contact these people, but we need help. I feel like we need a lot of help. And so this one lady knew someone who happened to know someone who was very wealthy. And I found out probably 4 weeks later that they had collected over 100 names of people and were giving out RVs to them.
Already?
Yeah. So well, I mean, it's happened over the course of the last month,
Oh,
but
okay.
but that's what she went and started doing.
Wow.
And not only did they do that, but of course they had done other things, like they got people tents, and they were. I didn't
They
even.
dove in. You
they
didn't even
dove
know.
in. I didn't
you were
even
doing your
know.
own thing. She was doing.
I didn't even know. So that was like the first week, and she went hands on,
Yeah.
and so weeks later, I had this guy who calls me, and he says to me, "Hey Inga, I just wanted to touch base with you. I got your name from so and so," and I was like, "Who's so and so?" He's like, "So and so who knows so and so who knows so and so who knows so and so," and now we're here. And I was like, "What?"
Wow.
And so I ended up going to this church that my friend had told me about. And this guy is there, and they're all hugging me. They're like, "Who's Inga?" And I was like, "Oh, here I am." And they're like, "Oh my God, you're crazy. Like, we have all this support from you." And I was like, "What? From me? I didn't even know." And so it was so funny. We were all laughing so hard because I had no idea that all these people somehow got connected through this one patient out in Nashville, Tennessee.
Wow.
And she had gotten all these people from Georgia, and they had all rallied and had poured in all this love to this one church, and the church was like, "Oh my gosh, Inga, who are you? Where did you
Where
come
did
from?
you find this woman to
And
help us?"
why do you have all these people calling us with all this, supplies and donations?" And
That's amazing.
it was amazing. And that story just makes me laugh so hard because, I just remember there was a scripture about not letting your right hand know what your left hand was doing. And I literally had no idea what an effect this one patient had. And then I got a call shortly thereafter from another person up in New York, and they had driven multiple van loads down and truckloads and had gone to another place that I had recommended. So I had just made a copy of my chicken scratch handwriting, and I had listed out this person for these places, and it had covered a lot of Yancey County and Spruce Pine area and Bakersville, Bernardsville, Waynesville, and up near Marshall. And so this whole upper area had just gotten so loved on, and I just started focusing on Fairview because we had one friend who we couldn't reach on day 3 or 4. And so we had one of my girlfriends said that she contacted the guy who we go take our kids to the dojo for. He went out in an ATV and was looking for her, and was met with a lot of opposition from a lot of people because they were so scared, and people were waving guns everywhere and saying, "Get off my property." And so no one knew where she was or how to get in contact with her, and she wouldn't answer her phone anymore. So
at the beginning there was a lot of fear, protect their land.
oh my God, it was people were terrified. We had gotten calls from friends once the phone lines were back up that there was a lot of looting because homes kind of had just been washed away or abandoned. A lot of people, after the first probably 5 or 6 days when the gas started coming back, left. And so, little neighborhoods were kind of forming a little village, and they were just protecting each other. And so, everybody has guns in America, so everyone was like, "Well, we're going to protect our
these
stuff."
are the Carolinas after all.
Yeah. So people were just really scared, and I get it. And so anyway, my friend was like, "No, we're okay, we're just here to help." And they're like, "Get off our land." So I called up my friend who works at a farm that we do a little farmer's market with, and she vended there, and I said, "Hey, our friend Natalie who vends here, we can't get a hold of her. We've tried multiple times, and we're not able to, get in contact with her. Can you go up there?" And so he's like, yeah, let's get a game plan together and we'll go. So we met him over at their house and brought, like, by this time we had gotten some supplies from you all. And so we had packed their thing full of like generators and blankets and food and everything that we needed. And he took the ATV out and went up, and she was so thankful. And come to find out, you literally couldn't get up her road because they were back in Fairview on Garin Creek Road. And so, so anyway, so we started talking to her and started supplying them with stuff. And then as that kind of transpired and opened up, she said this area was hit really hard. And so Brian, the guy that is part of the farm, said, we got to help them. And I said, let's do it. And so we just kind of rolled up our sleeves and just dove in, and, you know.
Just got to know the neighbors and.
Yeah, we just got to know the neighbors, and they were some of the hardest hit areas. So, you know, up that road is where Craigtown Mountain is, where 40 homes slid off the mountain and 11 people died in one family. And right down the road, like if Craigtown's kind of like, you know, as the crow flies up here, down here at the end of the road that goes down Craigtown Mountain were several homes where everything was just completely devastated. And so we ended up going out and getting to meet the people who run the Nesbitt Chapel, and we just started getting to know the community.
Yeah.
By that time, they had made the news about it being such a hard hit area. And one of the guys was a single man who we met, and his name was David, and he had lost his home. He had had a tree go through the middle of his home, and it was hanging half off a cliff, and the rest of it was stopped by his wood splitter. And so we
What was hanging, the house? Or
the house, the whole like the mobile home was a trailer home, and so the front half of the home is literally hanging off a ravine. So he had a little creek that was on the side of his house, and when the mudslide came, it basically brought trees down with it and pushed his house literally forward. And then the ravine also broke away land and created this like big chasm basically, and half of the front porch of his house is falling into the ravine still. And it's really awful. It's actually really awful. He's a widow. His third wife died suddenly, like within the last 10 years or something, and then his daughter moved in and her daughter died, and I didn't ask how because it just wasn't appropriate. And so, you could tell that he really loved his land where he lived. He had like a little hot tub in the back, and there was a hammock attached to the front porch that was hanging off, and he was broken. I mean, just so broken. And anyway, one of the people that we were gonna, that was talking to us about donating for RVs, because I said, I had heard a story about a guy who had lost everything up in Burnsville area. So at that point, my husband and I had volunteered up at a medical clinic that was getting started up there, and we were doing ATV runs and stuff up into people that couldn't be reached. And so we were just checking on people, and there were lots of people that needed help, medical help too. And so anyway, when we had come down from the mountain, I was talking with one of the guys at the church, and he said that they had run into this guy from the mountains who was so lost. He was just kind of wandering, and they kept asking him if he needed anything, but he didn't have a car. And the thing that was so impressive to me about this was that there was all these supplies coming in, but nobody knew where to put them. Because literally there was so much need, but these people had nowhere to put the supplies. So this guy had come, he had lost everything. His home had floated away, his tractors, everything, his car, everything. And he had gotten a ride to this church. And he showed up, and they kept asking him if he needed anything, and he kept saying no. And finally he said, could I just have a bottle of water?
Oh my gosh.
And so anyway, this guy had given him a bottle of water and started talking to him, and then it comes the story of how he kept saying, I don't know how I'm gonna grow my garden this year. I lost my tractor. And then he said, like, oh, my car floated away. And then he said, oh, my house floated away too, but I don't know how I'm going to rebuild it. Like, I built it. And he kept going on, and it was like little by little, this man just started breaking down the levels of how awful it was for him. And this church was telling me about it, and they were like, and then at the end, he gave his heart to Jesus. And I was like, but did you give him a home? I was like,
hello.
I was like, wait a minute, did you give him a home? I was like, oh my God.
Well, he gave his heart to Jesus. He said, right?
I know. I was so distraught about this. So I went home and I was like, Papa, these people need homes. Oh my God. Like, how are we going to get them homes? And so that was when I got the idea that we needed to get RVs, because because I was looking at the problem. I was like, there's a problem. The problem is we have so much supplies, because the supplies kept coming in. Like, everybody was so generous. And I was like, but these people don't have anywhere to put them. And so I just had that idea. I was like, oh, we need to get RVs. And because I thought that would be the easiest thing if they couldn't stay on their land. So anyway, I got in touch with that church, and I asked them if we could donate an RV to that guy. So we're still waiting to find out if they can find him, because of course he left.
Wandered around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He was staying in a shelter. So the guy that his name is Neil, one of the assistant pastors, I was like, that man, I need to find a home for that man. So y'all can pray for me to find a home for that man, because that story just touched my heart so much, because I could just feel it. I could feel the intensity of it. And that's when I went to the church where I had been directing people, and I was like, oh, they don't need any more supplies. Like, they had this huge, like, basketball, like, gym filled with supplies. And I was like, oh my God, we don't. And everywhere I went, it was like that, you know? And I was thinking, gosh, we are good on supplies right now. And that, you know, I remember Molly was saying too, like, we were pivoting every day. It was like, 1 minute we needed sleeping bags, and then we got so many sleeping bags. It was like, no, we don't need any more sleeping bags. 1 minute it was clothes, and it was like, no more clothes. And people were so annoyed, because they were like, but you just asked for clothes and now we got it. And I was like, I know, but I asked for clothes yesterday. Today we
need something else. We need propane heaters.
I was like, today I need propane heaters, you know, like, and it was so funny how fast things had changed. Yeah. And so, anyway, I just remember, like, it was so quick. And so anyway, I remember talking to someone, and they said, well, we really want to help everyone in need, but we really need it to be specific. And I said, no, what would be really right is to give this man who, you know, is a single widowed man, a camper. Like, he was kind of like the town hero. And so, you know, I kind of had to rally for this guy, but we ended up getting him a camper, and he was the first guy we gave a camper to. Beautiful. And it opened up so much. And, you know, after we gave him a camper, then we started giving the neighbors down the road a camper, and that was like a little family compound. And to this day, that little family compound got 3, 4, 5 campers. Wow. And then from there, we gave the neighbors campers. And then from there, we gave David's daughter a camper, because she was living with him and lost everything, which you guys have. And then David's daughter then has just given out our name to 4 or 5 other people who lost everything. Wow. And one of them, you know, we got a call from just a couple days ago. And, you know, she was homeless, and I put it out, you know, I put it out there, and I was like, okay, well, we're going to get her a camper. And literally within 24 hours, she had a camper. Wow. And the right camper showed up for her, and we paid for, you know, thanks to the Bible community, we paid for her 3 months worth of rent for her and a deposit for land, because she didn't have anywhere to put it. So
right. That's the other problem, right? A lot of people's land is condemned. Like, you can't put anything on it, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of the next phase of this. Like we got like, so, you know, we went camper crazy and now campers are coming in. We are giving out 8 more campers this
It's
week.
amazing. Where are they coming from?
Everywhere. I
They're
mean,
being donated, right?
people are just donating them. And I was
Beautiful.
talking to this lady the other day because some groups, like I have a group that contacted me that wants to give away just campers to VA people. And so I don't even, you know, have to touch the money of any of it,
Right.
which is so super great for me. But I'm just like a connector.
Right.
It's like I'm
Right.
the connector that just helps people get together. So someone said to me, oh, we've got 20 campers that we want to give to VA people, but they have to have lost everything. And I was like, that makes it a little difficult, you know,
Yeah.
because it's like, how many VA people do I know? Which is fine. Like there are some. So
Yeah.
we do have several people who are VAs that have lost everything. And so, and then we have other people who are getting brand new campers and they have some stipulations, but that's the Hilo project and they're linking up.
Right.
But
right.
if there are some people who, like, let's say they want to donate a camper. Let's say you have a camper and you're like, okay, I want to donate it to the Hurricane Helene, you know, people. What they do is they've contacted me and said, do you have a need? And this doesn't have to, like, this is a single person wanting to donate a camper to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And it could just be that they have suffered during the hurricane. Maybe they didn't lose everything, but maybe they were homeless before. And then that person gets to decide who, like, if they feel comfortable enough to give this person a camper.
Right.
So that was the problem, was we had some people who just had dumb luck and got evicted, or their low income housing flooded out,
Right.
or whatever, but they didn't maybe lose their home. They were in an apartment, or maybe they were just in an area that no longer can house them. And so, you know, they were displaced. They, you know, it's not like they particularly lost. I have a family right now who was renting a home and now they're in a tent. And so it's like, well, that wasn't their home. They didn't lose their home.
But they lost their home.
They lost their home where they rent.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you meet the demands and the needs of people, you know, given the story, you know?
Yeah.
So we are trying to match people up with the right fit. But then the other issue is like David, the first guy that we got a camper for, we were able to disconnect his electric, his sewer, his water, and hook it up to the pole, because he has this like little sliver right along his driveway that we were able to park the camper.
Wow.
But there's no septic. Like, he's still hooked up to his old septic, and we're hoping that the city doesn't condemn it, but most likely it will probably be condemned because it's not parking.
Right.
And so we have.
And these are some of the problems you're dealing with, is permitting and all the bureaucracy of that.
Yeah, so once the pink sticker kind of goes on the door, which is all news to me, they basically say, like, your land is condemned.
You can't put anything on that lynch?
Well, they have to be approved now. Once it's condemned, it has to be re-permitted and reapproved for.
Even for an RV?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but my understanding is at some point they will come by and deem the property whether or not you can stay. And so that's been something that's been really challenging, is that a lot of people's land, you know, like we were digging up another person's septic, and 2 inches in it's water. So the water table has risen so much,
Wow.
or has diverted in certain areas.
Wow.
But the other thing is like in David's case, it was so traumatic.
Mhm.
So one is he's struggling with just a lot of PTSD from it. I mean, he had people floating and through his home and going through his house. It was so traumatic. I mean,
People he probably recognized.
I don't know.
Okay.
He said they were face down, and
Yeah.
you know, he was just
Not
so,
the most bizarre image.
no, he was so traumatized by it. But you know what he said, and when you look behind his house, like, it's still really vicarious. Like, the mountain is still kind of coming down, but also the ravine, you know, it has created kind of like a shelf,
Mhm.
and that shelf is crumbling. And then this week I got a call from him when it started raining again that his driveway was starting to collapse and mud was starting to come out from underneath it.
Oh my
And
God.
because they had rerouted the water, so apparently like the little stream that was coming down along one way got rerouted in order to try to divert things, and that created other problems. And then someone had to cut, tubes, and they had to go, clean it out. And we were able to get someone out there, but again, like, how all that's happening, it's just kind of like a miracle. Somehow I called someone, I said, I need someone out to this guy's land or he's gonna lose his driveway, and he's already lost everything.
Right.
And he's not gonna be able to get in or out, and he's gotta work a $15 a day job,
Yeah, really.
or $1 an hour job, and like, it's already a really bad situation. So now I'm believing that, maybe people will start donating, like, I don't know, it's kind of pie in the sky, but maybe land for this guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 70 years old. I'm like, how can he even rebuild? Like, it's so bad. It's just crazy to me. So anyway, the needs are just crazy. Like right now I'm dealing with porta potty needs because we're in the cleanup phase, and I just got a email from my friend Brian, who's working with us, who's been bringing out campers, and he said, right now the need is they just opened up the dump, like where to dump garbage, so people can now apply for garbage removal. And so up till now it's been all privately donated time and funds for garbage removal. Like we had 4 trailers that we had to get off of someone's property, and we were over there the other day, and it smells awful. I mean, it is so rancid in their yard. It's unbelievable, the stench. And I know that they had dead bodies floating in their
we
yard.
can't even imagine what's in the mud.
No, I mean, it's, 8 inches worth of mud or more, and they had bodies in their yard, but I don't even think they've had cadaver dogs going through and tagging or looking, when they find like a spot where they think there might have been someone who passed, or if someone's missing, what they'll do is bring cadaver dogs in, and then they use like tags or something that they go in and mark the areas to say cadaver dogs have been here, or maybe this is an area that needs digging or whatnot. I don't know. But, the reality of it is it smells really bad down there, and they've asked for, so they've been having lots of garbage removed, and we did get those huge silver bins donated, and so they've already had several removed, and now we're going to have several more. But it's just like, I mean, you just can't even imagine the amount of garbage. Like, I don't even know where they're going to put it all. It's so...
Because up to now, really, there's been no garbage runs, right? The city hasn't been able to.
They've done some garbage in the city. The city garbage has happened. But, like my garbage guy came by, and he's like, I can't take those boxes. We just don't have room. So, like, you have to burn boxes and stuff, and... that was a huge help when the Baba community came up too and brought stuff. They've been taking out garbage, so that was huge, because you can't imagine like just, getting rid of all these, just getting rid of garbage. I mean, there's like 10 cars in the front yard of this one family's home, like mangled and torn up and
thrown into trees. And
yeah, I mean, just driving down the French Broad River going near my home, there's like a refrigerator in the tree. It's like they're like the refrigerator doors
and
in the tree.
it's still there.
And it's still there. Every time I walk by it, I'm like, ugh.
How do you even get up there to take it down, right?
I mean, you can't. It's too high, but it's just like this terrible reminder. Like everywhere you go, there's this like, you're kind of being forced right now to go back to quote unquote normal life, but it's not normal in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And I was talking to my friend Denton, who lives up near Tennessee, near Irwin, and he lives near Douglas Lake, and that lake is still closed because they're still pulling bodies out. Like, and nobody's talking about this, and that's the thing that's really...
It's really bizarre, isn't it?
It's so bizarre because, like, personally, on 2 hands, I can tell you that the amount of people that have passed is absolutely astronomical. the person who works with my husband is a surgeon, had like a total meltdown because he was finding so many bodies that he had to stop because it was just so awful. We know other people who pulled out 60 bodies in Whittier, 2 weeks later.
And that's just one person.
Yeah, I mean, when we were doing ATV runs, we met a couple who, they watched the landslide take out a whole car full of 4 people.
Wow.
In Poplar, there was like one little town where I talked to one of the guys, and he was so cute, telling me about bear hunting, and then he kind of switched gears and told me about how 8 people in their little town died, and one of them happened to be the grandfather of one of the people that we gave 8 generators to, and we kept bringing generators out there because someone was so frustrated, and they were like, why are they just burning through these generators? And I was like, guys, there's got to be a reason. Let's just assess the situation. Because I'm a nurse, I'm like, let's assess first. Like, I'm sure they're not just maliciously doing it, Right. And what we found out was the whole town. So one of the girls knew someone out there who had introduced us to this little town. It was like a hard to reach town. And their whole road was taken out, like completely gone, like half of the road completely washed away, and they've had to bring boulders in to reconstruct this road along the Tow River. And anyway, apparently this was like a young mom who was working in the church who requested the generators. Come to find out, like, she had 4 kids, her husband was a lineman, so he was working on all the electric, wires, and when we got talking to her, she was like totally exhausted and burnt out. Her grandfather died in the hurricane. His whole house was removed, and he floated away and died. And so that's how, like, the story of all these people dying. They sent me a video of a lady floating down the river screaming for help, and she's like, Inga, it was so horrible. And I said, oh my God, like, well, what can I do? And she said, we need more generators. And I was like, what's going on? And she said, well, our whole town is old people. And so it had just started getting cold snaps. Mm-hmm. And so all these little old ladies, you could see them, right? Like sitting in their homes, like knitting, with their little generator going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And they're like little cold, people. And no one told them that they needed to check the oil of their generators. Oh. So they were burning out. What do they know? They were burning out all the oil. And so it was just an education piece to say, like, hey, the men need to go around and, like, just check the oil on these generators, every couple days, and make sure there's enough oil in them. And that could have been easily avoided. But, I think you don't think of those things in like a trauma situation. You're just surviving to the next day. Yeah. And like they had so much, because they were getting helicopters were landing. They had
they had all sorts of stuff dropped
on
Oh
my God. And then the church floor was buckling because of the weight of all the supplies.
No way.
Yeah, so the whole church floor started buckling. So they had to move half of the stuff out. And then we were getting rain. And then,
this was privately helicopter dropped, right? These are private charities that were...
Yeah, yep. And so that was part of the helicopter. That was where we were working. There was a little small airport that was up in Avery County, and so they were, they had like the Prince of Sudan, I think, or Jordan flew in, and they were just, all these private people were just dropping tons and tons of stuff off.
That's amazing.
I mean, pallets and pallets full of stuff, and everyone was like, what do you need? And I was like, I'm careful about what I ask for now, because
you might get like too much of it.
I was like, here,
deal with that. And that's the other part of it, right? I mean, just because someone has given you stuff doesn't mean automatically, boom, you know what to do with it. You gotta.
Well, in the beginning, it was easy, right? Like in the beginning, it was super easy to people were like, yes, I need that. I don't have a generator, because even people like close in, didn't have power or water or whatever, and needed support, and their food had gone, and so in the early days of everything, anybody went, like anybody could get anything, but then all of a sudden people started really hunkering down and not wanting to give stuff out. and they were like trying to say, oh, well, we only can give it to the people who really need it. Like, and then I was like, well, but how do you determine that, right? Like, because everybody needs something, and, you know, it was complicated, right? And then people thought that they were getting taken advantage of, and so then all the buildings, like churches and stuff, started doing like a vetting process, which I can appreciate. That was actually, there was some wisdom there, and they would take the box to the generators. They didn't just leave the generators with the boxes so people could return them. And
Oh, right.
so, you know, there was a lot of good things, but you don't think about these things in the middle of a crisis. Like, I could care less what you do with the box.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm bringing you 8 generators and you've just lost 8 people in your community, I'm not going to vet you for a box. Like, that wasn't.
However, they did need to know how to like install a generator and all those things and maintain it, like you're saying.
They did.
And generators aren't cheap, so you got to make sure they're educated.
Yeah.
Just like the chainsaws, you can't just give it to anybody. You got to make sure they know how to use a chainsaw.
Well, and then the big need became like tourniquets.
Oh.
Because you wouldn't imagine, but you have all these people who have trees down and are chainsawing.
Oh.
And so there were some really bad chainsaw accidents.
Aye.
And yeah, and so tourniquets became really important. But you wouldn't think, oh my God, I need to have like 50 tourniquets. You know?
You just don't have that kind of supply on hand. I mean,
or like bleed stop, or you know, trauma wound pack. So you know, that led to us like, you know, getting invited to go help start this medical thing. And then people started pouring in medical stuff, and then all of a sudden the powers that be said, no, you can't do this. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, we can't do this? Like,
it was donated into your medical professionals.
Right, it's donated. We're medical professionals. Well, you're not allowed to, and it was shut down. It was forced to be shut down. So then we had to pivot and consume all the medical supplies, and then we had to sort them all to send them back out in different ways. And
even your kids were sorting, I hear.
Oh my God, it was so extraordinary. And thanks to Anne who came and helped.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it was, that day was so stressful because I was like, what? They're going to what? They're going to throw it all out? I was like, no.
What?
No. We'll give it to the vets. We'll give it to whoever. And so I had to pivot really fast to
and just distribute that to already established.
Absorb and distribute. And, you know, it's still going out. But, you know, it was actually really great because it took something that was very stationary and somewhat mobile, but made it super mobile. So then, you know, we like, I'm telling you, I walked away with so many nuggets in my hat, like how to create like an on-go wound care, respiratory, you know, IV backpack, like,
the all-in-one backpack.
Yeah,
let's talk about mobile. That's mobile.
Yeah, with like glucose and like, you know, nebulizers and, you know, whatever you need. You
all
can
in one
just
backpack.
sling it on your back and head on out to see whoever needs it, which is great. I mean, super great. And so then I had some VA guys that someone had introduced through a church. Someone said, oh, I know these special ops guys out in so-and-so land, and they called me up and they were VA people. And so I said, oh my gosh, I have buckets upon buckets of stuff I can give you. And they were like, bring it. I was like, all right. So I brought it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, super, you know, super pivotal, and, you know, we just kept moving. Like, but it's been crazy like that. And so every day feels like, you know, and I think now believe it or not, there are still people in tents.
Yeah.
Like how that is possible. But I was talking, so, you know, we're here down at the center and taking a few days to just breathe. And I ran into someone from Asheville, and her husband drives an Amazon car, and there was a lady who, you know, has 3 kids and is living in a tent. And I was like, if you'll get me her number, I'll get a camper. Like, let's just do it. You know, so, you know, and the thing is like, you don't think about it, but it's so many little nooks and crannies to these mountains up there.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, it's getting a little more desperate because it's cold and rainy. And the thing that I'm really concerned about is we've kind of put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
like there's not real like
That's not a solution. Yeah.
strength to what's happened there. Like we're just band-aiding a lot. Like I have a friend who still loses power every so often. Like if the wind blows a certain way, she loses power again. And actually the Baba community has gone out and helped her quite a bit with trees and generators and tourniquets. She had multiple things fall on her house, and that's the other thing. Like you don't think about this, but she was separated and her kids lived with her, and when the hurricane hit, the ex got the kids and has torn apart families now because she's not, suitable, which is like another rumor mill that's been going on, is that like, social services is coming in and taking kids, and I don't know if any of that's true, but it doesn't even matter to me, because what's actually happening is it is causing divides, like, and it's so stressful because people are just so stressed out. Like one of the families that we are helping, I was there the other day helping them out, and we were bringing them another camper to their sister, and they were all fighting like cats and dogs. I was like, oh boy, didn't I just walk into a hornet's nest,
really.
And but it's so stressful. It's
Because
so
some people
stressful.
have a living situation and some people don't, and the ones who do get the kids and that sort of thing. Is that what you mean?
Or just like in general, just like the constant, like we're 60 days in,
The stress of it.
and like, they're having to, they're still trying to get whatever, and that's the other thing that's so interesting, is they're still trying to get stuff out of their homes,
Right.
which now are like full of mold.
Because it's been this long, yeah.
They're so rancid smelling.
Oh,
I mean,
my goodness.
I was in a home just a couple days ago before I came here, and it smelled so awful. And there was a whole team of people pulling like huge like stuff out. So they're taking out piles and piles and piles of furniture and clothes and stuff.
Because it's all rotted. by
It's all
now.
rotted.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, these are people's like baby pictures or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, and this one guy was like, no, but that was my mom's furniture. And I'm like, honey, like,
You can't.
you can't save
have
it. He told me today, he was like, I just think I should save my beds. I was like, let me ask you, do you really think they're not moldy? Because like, I'll raise money to get you new beds. And he's like, really? And I was like, yes. I was like-
Definitely. Do
I was
not
like,
sleep in that.
Do not sleep in that. And I was like, so-and-so had a lung removed because he had black mold. And so, that's the other thing. And then, as if that weren't enough, now you've got the issue of like, all the pollution in the water. And even though they're saying like, hey, the water's back, and
I know, but that's the city of Asheville anyway.
yeah, but I mean, we're hearing that, right? We're hearing like, hey, the
Oh
water's
yeah,
back.
water's
and-
potable. I don't know about
yeah,
that.
and you should come back and do the tourist thing. I'm like,
I wouldn't drink the water.
no. And I mean, no, I wouldn't. And
They're posting it all over Facebook. It's like, yay, hooray, blah blah blah. But they're not saying what else they've tested for.
well, it's not even that. It's that they've had like really hard forever chemicals are now in the water. So you've got several plants. They came out with some warnings that said like, hey, by the way, yes, we had chemical spills, and the mud is contaminated. The water around the areas are contaminated, but they're not. And then they're saying, yes, we did find radioactive like barrels, but
Jeez.
we don't know that there was any radioactive stuff in it. And then they're saying, yes, the plant did have, plastic and this and that, but, nothing definitive has been released. And so who knows what the real story is, but
And they're saying the reservoir is protected, but protected from what? All the water ended up in the reservoir, no?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a water expert, but
Yeah.
what I do know is that it doesn't look great for the water situation.
Yeah.
Because they're pouring chemicals down the pipes and,
Yeah.
You
The
know-
aluminum to reduce the turbidity was already a big problem because that's underotoxin.
yeah.
But then now they're adding all this chlorine that's leaching the lead out of the pipes. Oh God.
Yeah, it's Baba. I'm like, oh Baba.
Yeah.
So water filtration is going to be huge. I'm really concerned about the fallout of all the chemicals. I have heard also that because there could have been radioactive material and stuff, that there are mercury like plumes in the air. And then someone was telling me that even showering with all the chlorine, that it causes these microbursts, so that you actually are inhaling chlorine. So you know, people should really consider getting like, you know,
at least the minimum filters.
Yeah.
But a good filter would be helpful.
Yep. Yeah. So
my concern is that, you know, the authorities are under a lot of pressure to get the water going and say it's normal and bring tourism back. But as a tourist, not living in Asheville, I wouldn't drink the water. So what would the local, you know?
I think that's the thing, is like a lot of pressure upon the community, you know, officials and everyone for a lot of things, like not just like for water, but and tourism, but also to like downplay maybe how many people really died. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. The numbers that I keep hearing are so low.
They're so low.
They're so low. And so
the official death count is still something like, I haven't looked recently, but
it's like 200. I mean,
230 or something, and they're holding steady. What about all the missing people? They're not calling missing people.
I mean, someone sent me a spreadsheet that actually had over 500 people still missing. That was just from one local area.
Just from one area. I mean,
Yeah.
500 for the whole area? No, that's
No.
got to be way more than that.
And then they still had, and there was multiple people on there deceased and, you know, found. So, you know, and I think that's just for people who knew that letter existed, that little spreadsheet thing existed. So who knows? You know, and the thing is, it's so
unreported.
widespread. So, you know, there's a lot of like incongruencies, and, you know, I just can't be bothered with that really, because the reality of it is, I just need, you know, there are so many people who just need help. So helping people is just
Right. That's
what we
the
do.
main priority.
It's just the main priority, but I definitely feel like water is a huge priority. Sanitation's a huge priority. People have been sick. You can hear my kids coughing. Like, we've been coughing
Yeah, I mean,
probably for, you know, the whole 60 days.
If the
'cause of
mud is
dust.
bad, then the dust must be toxic.
Yeah, there's a lot of mycoplasma pneumonia coming around. Like, I've some people that we know that have been diagnosed with that. So a lot of people are getting, you know, but there's chronic irritation just from all the dust, and
Yeah.
it's
Been so dry for so long.
which
is a
great.
blessing.
Yeah, it's great. Like, if we had any more rain after that, the first couple of weeks, it would have been
Traumatizing.
really bad.
I
But
read a Facebook post about a child who was just traumatized with the thought of rain. Like, it
yeah,
had rained a few drops and they were freaking out.
yeah, the rain does bring a lot of anxiety right now, mainly because there's still landslides. Like, I met a lady the other day who, I was just driving a back road and I was going to see someone, and it was a new road for me up in Burnsville area, Bakersville, Burnsville, Barnardsville, and I gone down by the river, and that whole asphalt road had been washed out. I mean, huge road gone, and they had brought in huge boulders and they had been fixing it, and apparently it was impassable for multiple weeks. And so what they did was they brought in huge boulders, and then they filled it in with gravel, which I had heard that the gravel lots were all off limits to private, you know, people. You couldn't go get like a truckload of gravel. So when we were trying to level people's lands out, which is another thing that we were doing, is getting like excavators and leveling out land to try to put like an RV at, we wanted to put gravel down because of all the mud and all the dirt, and it was so toxic. Well, you couldn't do that. So, you know, plan A went to plan B, went to plan C. You just had to keep pivoting because like that wasn't available. And so
So all the gravel is reserved for the DOT and whatnot.
yeah, which is fine. Like, I'm not like opposed to that. Like, I don't have any issues with any of it. Like, you know, when people say, well, they're not helping, I'm like, look, I don't know about any of that. What I do know is that they were doing the best that they could, everybody, because the Department of Transportation and stuff were working super hard on getting these roads that were just completely impassable fixed. And the problem is that was in a lot of places. Like there were so many roads. So when
Something like 2,000 mudslides.
I mean, when you say like, oh, the road to Chimney Rock was out, and like the boys from Western Virginia came and
it got
rebuilt the
posted
road
on Facebook, but it's not an official road. It's just a dirt road.
Yeah, but you know what? That was what we were faced with.
Yeah.
It's like there was no way for anybody to say like anyone was slacking because there was so much damage. It's
So
like
much.
incomprehensible damage.
So much.
I would venture to say that this is the worst natural disaster that has ever happened in the history of the United States.
Most likely.
And that's like a really powerful statement, but
Maybe even more than the U.S., you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe, yeah. I mean, it is that unbelievable. And I just think, I'm just so curious why there are things just not being talked about.
yeah, it's strange.
Very strange to me, because I don't have any, punch in that fight. It's like, what do I care? Like,
Yeah, right.
But it's just curious, like, knowing myself, at least 200 people that have died on two hands.
You mean like first-hand accounts?
First-hand accounts.
Right.
And that doesn't even include, I have a friend who happens to own a very prominent company, and her son happened to have a first responder radio, and they were loading so many bodies in, trailers and stuff that
Wow.
they lost count and ordered more body bags. So, like, I don't understand what the point is of hiding that. That doesn't even make any sense to me.
At one point on Facebook, there was body bags requested by a private charity. I mean,
Yeah.
people were buying it on Amazon. That's so weird. Like, why should private citizens even be buying body bags? Like,
But why are we not even talking about it?
why are we not talking about it? How many body bags were ordered?
I have no idea. I have no idea, but I know it was so significant that
It's
people...
got to be way, like, 10 times more, maybe even 100 times more than the official number, but they're not talking about it.
I mean, there's some words going around that it's like close to, 5 to 10,000 people that have died.
I think in Katrina they reported 16,000, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I would believe over 10,000 people have died in
I
this
would believe that.
hurricane. And I would say that that's probably being generous. My husband said something like 6 figures of people dead.
Could be right.
So, I mean, it's quite extraordinarily awful. And there are moments like the other day I came home and I was like so tired. I like walked in, I didn't even say hi to anybody, and I sat down and I just started sobbing. I was like uncontrollably sobbing, and I thought, I have yet to really process it all, because like I have moments where I just break down and I start crying. I'm like, it's so much.
It's so much.
And then I have moments where I'm just like, I'm a machine. It's
Just
like,
get back out there.
it's like the Sagittarian fire in me is like, go, go, go,
Just
gadget,
go.
go.
There's more stuff to do.
And I'm an ICU nurse. Like, I do that. That's what I do. But, it's like there are days when I just like can't.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Or I get grumpy. Like, I've been grumpy a couple times in the last few weeks where I'm like, I can't do another thing. It's like, it's so overwhelming. Like, when you think you get someone set up and they're like good for a little bit, you're like, okay, they're good. And then like they call you and they're freaking out because like mud is like collapsing their whole driveway. And like there's like a tunnel going underneath their driveway and the driveway is collapsing, and you're like, no, 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 no.
I'll come save you.
It's like, no, let me see what I can do. Or like I bought a shed for this guy, and because he's like, I need a shed for my stuff before you collapse. Like, we get an excavator and we just take away his mobile home. And so I bought this shed, and I didn't know that the shed, was at this place and it was already built. And so I had to figure out how to get the shed to this guy's house, and then while I was trying to figure it out, they canceled my order.
Oh no.
Oh my God, I was so annoyed. I was like, no. And so,
We need that shed.
but then I have like, days like this week where I had this volunteer who's coming from Oklahoma with 8 RVs. Like,
Amazing.
just like, and a whole caravan of people. They're all just come in. And she's like, well, maybe I'll load up a shed for you. And I was like, yes, please.
Please.
I was like, yes, please. But then, like, I had a guy who came up from South Carolina to excavate, and I was so excited because we had the garbage trucks and like everything was ready, and they started excavating, and then the guy's excavator broke, and I was like, oh, it's like five
Nothing
steps.
straightforward. That's what I was trying to get at before. Like, just because something's donated doesn't mean there's not a lot of work to make it functional. Like,
Oh my God.
even with a camper, you gotta then kit it out with sheets and blankets and
Yeah. And then you forget the
dining
pillows.
table and
It's like, I forgot the pillows. And they're like, oh, could you know, like, I sent out a RV to someone this past week. We got it out to this family, and we were, there was so much going on that day. I didn't have a chance to outfit it.
Yeah.
So then I felt bad. But then, she sent me a message, and she's like, so thankful. And I said, honey, make a list of everything you want and need, and we'll make sure we get it in there. And, it's so sweet to see what they need.
Yeah.
It's like so basic, you take for granted, like things like a mop and a broom and,
and a pot and pan or
pot and pan.
a plate or two. Or
Yeah.
And a camper doesn't come with any of those things. You have to
No.
find those things and
No.
clean it
So
out.
the next ones that we have that are coming in, we have them going into the farm. They're going to go to the farm first. We'll clean them, and then we're going to just stock
Kit them up then.
We're just going to kit them up and stock them full of stuff.
Yeah.
And load them up with like a generator and buddy heaters and everything that they need.
And then
so,
send it to them complete.
yeah, when they get the camper, it'll just be complete. But even when you think it's complete,
They still need something.
you're shocked. Like, you might not have looked underneath like the battery the other day. Like one of our campers, it didn't come with a battery. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
who takes the battery off of a camper for Pete's sake? And just like, oh my God. And then like, the propane tanks are there, but they're all empty. I was like, what?
Why would they deliver empty propane
I
tanks?
was like, who delivers empty propane tanks? And then the hoses were gone. I was like, what? I was like, oh my God. Or then like, I sent a lady, so we bought this lady, a camper actually from you guys, and got her also 3 months worth of rent. So we've done that a couple times where we pay for 3 months worth of rent for people on land because she had nowhere to live.
Right.
And her heater broke in her RV. So now I've got someone going out and fixing the heater for like $1,500. And you're like, oh boy. At some point, it's all gonna stop. Like at some point, what do we do when these people still have all these needs? And that's what I'm worried about, is like the need is just so enormous. And
it's going to keep going. I mean,
I know.
it's going to keep evolving what they need next. And they can't live in campers forever.
No. I mean, it's such a temporary fix.
Because you've got like families of 4 living in a little camper. It's
I mean,
not
they could technically do it for a while, maybe
Yeah.
a year, 2, 3, but hopefully long enough for them to get back on their feet. But
Yeah.
again, like, it's just like so incredible, the need. But some people like don't even have a car to tow their camper if they wanted to leave wherever they are.
They don't even have a car, period.
Yeah, that's true too.
So here they are living in a camper and they can't go shopping. They can't go grocery shopping.
Yeah, they're all sharing something or renting.
Right.
So if anybody wants to donate cars, for sure, we could find people, specifically trucks, that can tow.
Oh yeah, that would be
It's a
amazing.
huge ask, but who knows? I mean, I'm not putting anything past Bob. I'm like, Bob, whatever you want, like, just
Yeah.
send it.
Yeah.
Like I told someone the other day, she was like, someone just pulled up with 3 campers. I was like, yes, the answer is yes.
Take them, yes,
She
yes,
was
receive
like,
them.
Really? I was like, yes. She's like, really? I was like, yes.
We'll figure it out later.
I was like, just yes, you all need one there. There's like 6 families, yes. She's like, well, who gets it? I'm like, who cares?
Just claim them.
I was like, just say yes, move in.
Right.
They were just all so thankful and shocked,
And so were you. You weren't expecting.
I wasn't expecting it because we were going to give them some of the campers that were coming this week, but they got 3 campers. So then I was like, well, Baba, what am I going to do now? I got these campers coming that was for them, and now
They
and
got
then
those 3, and now you have another 8
and
coming.
then ding-a-ling-a-ling, my phone rings, and I had 3 more people who needed campers.
Of
So
course,
it was like, of course. I just can't control it, but it's like a really good act in surrender.
Talk about pivoting, though.
Whew.
Because you just got set to do this, and then now it's like
I
that.
totally,
But then
I totally was set to do that. I was like, "What? You just got 3 campers?" They're like, "Did you send it?" I was like, "Well, I
Wait.
sent out your information to like 3 different people for help, but I wasn't expecting them to just
3
show
campers.
up." So I was like, "But you can just keep saying yes." They're like, "Wow." I was like, "Yeah, I know." But I put out a request to someone else. I said, "Well," and that's what I've been doing, is just sending my list to people and
Yeah.
saying, like, here's the list of who I have that needs right now. And that list changes like minute by minute, day by
course.
day. But sometimes it's so strikingly fast that I'm like, what? Okay, I gotta pivot again really fast. And then I'm like,
Cross that off the list and put this on the list and take that off the
I
list.
know. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. And some days, like, it's so crazy that I don't even, like, I don't even know what's happening.
I mean, you definitely wake up every day not knowing what the day's going to be.
No, I have no idea. Like, 1 minute I'm just like, I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs, drinking a cup of coffee, and the next minute someone's driveway's washing out. The next minute I'm getting porta potties. The next minute I've got excavators breaking.
And then you've got like medical needs, and then you've got.
It's crazy.
At least
Yeah.
your kids are older, and they seem to be self-sufficient in some ways.
Yeah, they've been really great. I mean, Suthy's been out helping dig up like septic systems,
Oh my gosh,
and
yeah.
Elowen's been helping hold down the fort at the house, and well, Farron's my youngest.
Yeah,
So,
he's not expected.
Yeah, we're just happy if he doesn't like
Get into trouble.
saw his arm off or something.
No.
He likes to tinker but one of the things that's really cool that I don't know if I told you is we homeschool my kids. So
Yes.
when I was praying about like what do we need to be doing, everybody's like, we should start school again. And I was like, I'm not feeling that. Like, no formal school right now. And so I was sitting with it, and we had done hide tanning last year as like an ancillary kind of thing where the kids, learned how to tan hides and what that entailed, and it was a whole block about it, and they really were miserable about it. It was really hard work, and
It is hard work.
It's
right?
hard work.
And it's pretty smelly, right? It's
Well, yeah, it can be, but I mean, the bigger issue is if you're going to eat meat, my opinion is like follow it from,
from
start
one end
to
to the other.
finish,
Yeah,
right? It's like,
you got to learn the whole works, right?
yeah, you'd eat a lot less meat if you
really knew.
If you really knew. So I was like, no, we're going to do the whole process. And Denton, was the one who was teaching us, and he's actually friends with a lot of Baba lovers, and he was like, okay, let's do 3. And I was like, or 12. Like, so we had like 12 hides that people had donated or that we had gotten.
What?
And so it was so much work. And by the end, everybody was so grumpy about it. And so, it was really bad. I mean, we still fight over this day about like hide tanning in my home. It's like a big sore subject because I really burnt the bridges on the excess of that. But anyway.
So you had 12 kids in your homeschool network?
There's 15.
15.
I think there was even more last year, maybe 17 last year.
That's a lot.
There's a lot at my house, 3 days a week. And so anyway, we had tanned all these hides and we had smoked them. Some of them we had smoked and some of them we left raw. And so when this happened, I one day woke up and I was like, Baba, we need the spirit of Western North Carolina. So Gil and Chitra had sent over Willie.
Oh,
I
yes.
just want to give a shout out to Willie. I love that man. Oh my God, so much. I love that man. So Willie shows up at my house and he was like, well, I really want to help people get out of their driveways. I was like, that's already done. You missed that boat about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
like,
done.
done. That's done. And I was like, but I've got like tree upon tree upon tree in my backyard that like I have no one helping me get rid of, and I could use some help because I am worried about some of them falling on my kids, and we
Yeah.
have 15 kids, and So anyway, I don't know how all that happened, but somehow Gil and Chitra sent Willie over to me. And here's this cute little guy who shows up at my house. And it is like a 3-ring circus at my house all the time. And like there are people coming and going and coming and going.
And they're taking showers.
And they're taking
laundry
showers and doing laundry. And I've had 3 laundry machines break. And it was like mayhem. And I had a lady in there cooking. And we were pushing out food to some of the distribution places. So they were serving meals. And we were just doing whatever we could. Like it was just like a big party at Inga's house, which is always what happens. And so anyway, one day I woke up and I was like, I know what we need to do. After Gil and Chitra had sent Willie, he was one night after late being out in the woods and sign up. He comes in and I'm so tired. I'm ready for bed at this point. Like I do crash, even though I seem to have endless amounts of energy. It's part of who I am. I do reach my limit. It's usually around 9:30 at night, and I turn into like pumpkin. And I'm ready for bed. It's like literally like, you know, what is it? Who is the glass slipper lady? Cinderella.
Yeah, right.
I become, you know, rags to riches at like 9:30. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready for everyone to go. But Willie was so determined to work until dark. And he would come in, and of course I had to feed him.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be rude and say like, really, I'm so tired, you got to go. And so he comes in and he sits down in my living room, and it became the sweetest, most precious night I can even imagine. And so he brings his little bag of goodies, and he starts bringing out all of his like instruments. And all of my kids get instruments, and they're egg shakers and clickers and like little snappers. And next thing I know, we have like an impromptu like band happening.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, oh, this is Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
Like this is the energy of Western North Carolina. And so every night he would come in, and every night we would enjoy it. And it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night by the time he would finish, and he'd leave. And I was like, what a gem this man is. And so it was during that time I was like, Papa, that's what we need to do. We need to make banjos. So I called up Denton and I said, I know what we're going to do for the school year. We're going to make banjos for Western North Carolina. So our little school is making like 15 banjos out of the hides that we had tanned, and we're going to see that project to completion. Mm-hmm. And it just feels right, like having these kids. So
what do you do? You strip the hides into strings?
So no, the hides are basically, you know, big hides like this. And so what they'll use is for the banjo, for the drum part.
Oh, the drum part.
Yeah.
Oh my God, made out of real hide.
Yeah, it's going to be made out of real hides.
And gourds, I hear.
Gourds, and they're carving the necks out of wood.
That's incredible. Well, you got a lot of wood.
Yeah.
You got Helene wood.
Yep. So, but it feels like just the right.
That is the right thing.
It's the right thing to do. And then someone called me and said, "Hey, we have instruments. We want to donate." And so they brought a couple instruments to the house. And so, you know, we've been looking for the right people for those to kind of go into the hands of. And we found one for the guitar already.
Nice.
It's a young 20-year-old whose family was one of the families that lost everything.
Yeah.
And so they're going to get the guitar. And we still have a banjo and a guitar ukulele, yeah. So we'll find someone for those.
Call it a guitalele.
A guitalele?
Yeah. So we've been collecting here in Myrtle Beach because beloved Asheville put out a call for instruments.
Yeah.
And that really struck a chord with me because for the same reason, you know, Western North Carolina, the Appalachians are known for their music. And what would be more healing right now than...
Oh my goodness. I mean, we love contra dancing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever contra danced it, it's
so fun.
Oh my God. Talk about coming to life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that makes me more happy than contra dancing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love contra dancing. It's so fun.
It is fun.
So fun. So, yeah, well, hopefully they'll be doing that again. I haven't looked to see if...
You know what? It strikes me that would be a great fundraiser.
Oh my God, that would be huge. You mean like a contra dancing fundraiser?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be. That's a great idea. Oh my gosh.
Let's figure it out.
That sounds like a great
The
idea.
other thing I thought of this morning was some sort of a raffle or something, like, to help fundraise. But anyway,
Contra dancing would be
contra dancing would be
way
great.
to do it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. If you've never contra danced, let me tell you, it'll change your life. Upside down, inside out, changes your life. And
Beverly calls, Beverly Smith.
oh,
She
really?
calls she calls square dancing, which I guess is the same
Yeah,
thing.
similar.
And so every year at the center for New Year's Eve, that's
They
what
do
we do.
that. Yeah. So fun. I mean, it's just so magical.
It is fun.
And really brings the spirit of Western North Carolina alive. Like, nothing like, fiddle music and
That's right.
just a bunch of like hee-hawing.
Yeah, yeah, it's so classic.
Like my daughter went to a dance just recently, and nothing like seeing a 13-year-old dressed up with
Cowboy boots.
cowboy boots, or she had her Vans on.
Oh yeah, there
just
you go.
sneakers to be comfortable, so you can just really get
Just
down
really
and dance.
Get into it.
But it feels right. I mean, it feels right to just really, honor those traditions
Yeah.
and, be kind of grassroots and just making the, banjos from scratch. And,
Yes.
so they were at my house today while I'm here. All the kids were there today and yesterday, and
You guys are missing it.
yeah, they missed it, but it's okay because
You'll catch up.
it's a lot of work, and it'll be several
Several weeks still, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be doing it until Christmas, and probably then some.
So they're still taking lessons. I mean, they still have their tutors come for math and what have you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they still do stuff for school, but we're just not like
Not
sitting down
official.
in like a classroom with a
Yeah.
whole bunch of kids. 1 or 2 days a week. They're doing the best they can, but yeah. So
Yeah, for sure.
been very expansive and contractive and roller coastery all in one.
Oh, for sure.
So and they still need help.
So much help, right?
So
It's-
much help.
it's-
Like so much help.
The city of Asheville is kind of settling in, and they're sort of starting to feel a little bit like, okay, we can start finding our feet. But all around Asheville is what you're talking about.
Yeah, the neighboring towns and all the little areas and the ins and outs
Up in the mountains.
up in the mountains are still really needing support. And the bigger devastated towns, like, I'm sure Biltmore, town is not going to look the same for a long time. There are buildings completely collapsed down there. The River Arts District, it's not even close to, being open or anything. Like, the buildings are just totally devastated still. Marshall and, Hot Springs and Bakersville and Burnsville and Barnardsville and, Spruce Pine and all the little towns, like all the little mountain towns, anywhere that you can remember a creek that had this much water was devastated, which is hard to believe.
Yeah.
So, it's going to take a long time for these towns to come back. Years. It'll be years.
Yeah.
But, the other thing that's super sad is, like, we camp a lot, and I know some people have heard me talk about the camping situation there, but one of my friends who I had called to talk about a camper, because he repairs campers, I didn't know that his dad ran one of the campsites that was up along 19 going out to Burnsville area, and it was completely devastated. His parents had just paid it off. $7 million campground over 20 years that they had built, completely devastated. And of course they're not rebuilding because they're in their 70s. That was their, like, retirement type of, thing that they were gonna, rest their laurels on and sell. But the sad part about it wasn't so just that he had lost it, was that I said, oh gosh, how's Toe River? And he said, gone, not rebuilding. And then he said, this one not rebuilding, this one not rebuilding. And that's when the tears, like, really started hitting my face. And I was like, oh my God, like, all these little towns that we go camping in, and, it's our summer fun. It's our fall fun. It's just our life fun. Like, it's why we love Western North Carolina. Like, we as a family love to camp, and we have a pop-up, and we go everywhere. Like, we had just gotten back from Glacier, and we've done Yellowstone, and we've done, Moab, and we've done all these little camp places, and we've just go and come and go and come. And, the thought of, like, all of our favorite campgrounds gone, like, I can't even comprehend that. Like, Western North Carolina has some of the most beautiful, like, little areas and nooks and crannies where you can go camping and hike and all those things, and it's so many gone, like, just gone. Like, they're done. They're not rebuilding. Like, the devastation is off the chart. Like, we know they had just rebuilt one of the campgrounds that was near the Tow River. It was right across from the Tow River campground, Hemlocks. And that campground is completely devastated again. Who knows? It's state run, so I don't know if they'll build again, but the Tow River one is gone.
Yeah.
So, but it's so many things, so many things. And some of those were permanent residents, that just live by the campgrounds or whatever, but yeah, it's really bad. So we still need help.
Yeah.
And lots of it. People need to be adopted.
Right.
For like the winter months to get through, or, just support. Gas cards, grocery cards.
It would be amazing to be that organized, that we had like a sort of buddy system.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. I could think of at least 40 people that could use a buddy.
Yeah.
Just for the winter, families. I was talking to one of the ladies we gave a camper to, and she's like, I gotta go pay my car payment, because she lost all of her cars, so she has a car payment now. And I was like, how much is your car payment, honey? She said $100 a week. I was like, okay.
A week?
Yeah.
That's a rental car, or?
No, that's they leased it, I guess.
They leased it for $100 a week?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I've got people who can't even afford the land that they're leasing, $300 a month.
Yeah, right. Because they're out of work.
Out of work.
Because work went down too with all of this.
Yeah, a lot
businesses
of it.
got lost.
You don't think about that, but like if you're a waitress,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
If you were an Airbnb, like, house cleaner, done. Like,
Right.
it's very scarce right now.
Because
if you were
tourism
the
is so down.
owner of the Airbnb, done.
Yeah.
If that was your income, right? Like, we know a guy who his only job was he had one Airbnb on his property, and that was his main income.
That was everything.
And gone.
Yeah.
So, the food industry, super hard hit in the food industry.
Yeah. Shaipani survived, and there's some restaurants that survived, but...
Yeah, but Shaipani, I mean, that's like a well-known, beloved favorite of everybody's.
I mean, it's a James Beard Award-winning restaurant. So.
I mean, it's, so incredible.
Yeah.
So, the fact that, they had support, from the community here, and from,
and World Central Kitchen. And
yeah, I mean, yeah, amazing that they survived, because, a lot of these people had already survived COVID, but still were just like standing on by like a little thread.
Right, that's true.
now this, so, yeah, it's rough.
It's rough. And so much of that area relies on tourism.
Mm-hmm.
So this is peak season, and hardly anybody's visiting, I'm sure.
Leaf lookers did not come this year, but
Yeah.
the leaves were, by the way, stunning. I do remember like coming down the mountain, one day after we were helping someone, and we were out in Fairview, and I said, "Good Lord, these are just beautiful mountains." And I just started crying, because I was like, I've been so busy, I haven't even taken time to enjoy the leaves.
Yeah.
And there they were in their full glory of radiant colors, and I was like, wow.
At the same time as all this destruction, that's going on too.
Yeah. So,
Though I've seen pictures where, like, sometimes on the same mountain, like, one side is completely just, like, mudslided out and all the trees are gone. The other side is just full of trees and
Yeah.
perfect and pristine.
Yeah, it's quite extraordinary to see that. Like, you can definitely see that there were places that looked like tornadoes had hit and just
Okay.
wiped up.
That's possible.
Someone told me that it was millions of trees,
Yeah.
maybe billions
Maybe
of
billions,
trees.
yeah.
That, I mean, so like the landscape of the trees is so different.
Yeah.
Like,
And if the ground underneath them slid down, then what are the new trees going to grow on?
you know, I know that the earth goes through these birthing pains
Yeah.
and it'll recover, but boy, I mean, one of my girlfriends was saying, and I didn't even think about this, but she said, now we have to be even more careful invasive species.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like kudzu,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah,
things
right.
that would just take over the ground crops.
Oh yeah.
So we really, need to get in there and start planting trees and,
Wow, that's a whole
that's a whole
long-term
nother thing. Like how do
Entire
you?
mountainsides taken over by kudzu, that'd be horrible.
Oh, it's horrible.
I mean, as it is, it's a problem.
The
But like,
thought of that, I was like, well, what we need to do is release the goats. They'll eat the kudzu.
they'll eat the kudzu.
And the poison ivy, and then we need to just,
Don't let them eat the trees
plant the trees and then take them out before they eat the trees.
before they eat the tree seedlings.
But they probably need to do that in the spring, like have goats just
Eat everything, because
eat everything because it's going to get so out of control.
that's an interesting thing. We're gonna have to put a call out for the spring to have goats from Atlanta come in.
I mean, nobody.
Calling all goats.
I know, you don't even think about that. It's like, oh God,
Do you even
goats?
have enough goats in Asheville?
I mean, it's like, good Lord, really? Like, you just,
Kudzu taking over. That's the other thing too. Weren't you talking about it? The soil, the mud has covered everything lower down. That like arable land, fertile farms are covered in like this
yeah.
completely toxic mud.
yeah, yeah.
How are they going to grow? They can't grow organic after that.
Mm-mm. Nope. Nope.
And that's such an arable area.
It really is.
So many farms.
I mean, they're really going to have to that's what we've been talking about is like getting down and excavating all that mud out.
Yeah, and then you have to dump it somewhere.
That's the bigger question. But like I said, they just released a dump site, at least in Asheville, for people. They're going to start removing dumps, like garbage. I mean, that's a huge issue, and who knows what held them up to be 60 days out before they could remove garbage. But it's so bad. The stink is so bad. Like, I'm not convinced in this one person's land that I was at that there weren't people buried, because the smell was so bad. It was so
It
awful.
smells like rotten stuff.
Yeah,
like
it
something.
was so bad. It was
Stuff has died.
so bad.
So it's not like the river bottoms dredged up. This is new rotten smell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beyond. Because I've been out there several times. And
Okay,
it's
and it's getting
beyond.
worse actually.
Yeah, but you think about it, like it's been warm.
It has been, and it's been dry, and it's been
Yep.
just.
And then we had rain, and then it.
Yeah, it dried out again. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that would definitely. Ew.
Yep. So who knows? I mean, it's something
The scale of the problem is so huge.
so huge, so huge.
Do you think any of these folks will have to move out of the mountains, live
Yeah.
somewhere else?
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking like David needs land, and
Yeah.
he's too old to rebuild. I mean,
Yeah.
people are like, oh, he could, rent an apartment. I was like, let me put that in perspective for you. Like you had like a small little home that was your pad, and someone says, gee, sorry for your bad luck. Go rent a house or go rent an apartment. Like, sure. But wouldn't it be great? We all have so much. Wouldn't it be great if we could help these people and buy like land? Like I know there's been a couple of organizations that have actually gotten donations of land, and they've been actually housing people as a retreat on the land and giving them like a little section of land to stay
Wow,
indefinitely.
that's so sweet.
Yeah, but I was talking with someone here today, and I was thinking about what you said. Like the new humanity is instead of us looking to everybody else, like looking to each other to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's just beautiful. Like, that's truth. Like, I can get behind that. Like, because that's what I'm seeing happen, right? It's like, we're not like, everyone keeps saying to me, now, what organization are you with? I was like,
It's just me.
just me, I'm a nobody. And they're like, they laugh and they're like, uh-huh. And I was like, no, I'm serious. Like, not anybody. Like, not
You're just you with a lot of friends, and
I'm just me.
and
I'm
I'm the same. I'm just me with a lot of friends.
It's like, I just know you, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, I know Angela, and Angela knows a lot of people in the Bible community, and the Bible community was the people that supported me for this, and this, and this, and, it's so funny, like, when people say that, who do I say thank you to? And I'm like, well, you have to say thank you to all these people, because this person got this, and this group got this, and this group got this, and, occasionally, it's like, one or two people, but most of the time it's like 5 or 6 or 7 people that have contributed to the problem for this one family. Because,
or a community. Even.
Yeah. Or it's the community, right? Like, so, I've just seen so many people pull together to create something different. And I think, gosh, couldn't we do that with land? Couldn't we do that with all of our problems? Like,
there was somebody who was saying that if we really were equal in all of our distribution of resources, nobody would be in need.
That's so true. But that's such an interesting comment, because what comes up a lot is like, well, did they lose everything according to the storm? I'm like, does it really matter now? Like, if they're homeless and they're cold in the midst of all, like,
who cares what the cause was?
Right, like, if we've met the need, then should we just keep meeting the need? Like, look at what's happened, and it just creates a little bit of curiosity for me, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, like, we had a need, right? And the need was so great that the outpouring was even greater, right? So all these people, like, brought all this stuff in, and it was so wild. It was wild abundance.
Yeah.
It was wild abundance. I mean, epic abundance. I mean, there were days when I would laugh so hard, because I really had to be careful what I asked for. It's like, I asked for sleeping bags and I got 50, which is great, but so did every other church.
Yeah, right.
And so did every other church get 50. And then all the, fire departments got 50.
Right.
I mean, it was just so
They were just
much.
manifesting.
Yeah. So it was like constant, influx of things. And so, I just think, like, wow, like, look at, like, if you were to really sit back with, like, not judgment, or, not with, like, an agenda of what you needed to do, right? And you just observed, what was being presented. It was wild abundance. And if we have wild abundance, and the need was of such where it was wild, right? Wild need, wild abundance, and everybody started getting their needs met, why couldn't we just do that on
Why
a
couldn't we
grander
live like
scale?
that?
Yeah. I have a friend who, like, lives her life that way. She calls it the gifting economy. And so she's basically lived her whole life giving and receiving. And so she gives her skills and then she receives, right? And so she doesn't have, quote unquote, a job. Like, she doesn't actually make money, although people give her money. But, a lot of people have really criticized her over the years. And I don't know, I'm sitting back watching this wild abundance, and I'm like, well, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Like, maybe that is the new humanity. Like, we, wildly love, wildly give, wildly receive, like.
Beloved Asheville calls it radical love. I like that
Totally
word.
radical.
Radical.
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like,
To love someone you don't know so much that they're loved like family. I love that image that they had.
yeah,
That's how they serve.
it's fantastic. I mean,
I do think that's the core of the new humanity. But when you really push hard, like, I don't know that I'm ready for that. You know what I mean?
it
So,
makes
like,
you uncomfortable.
yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
I had a church call me up and they said, Inga, like, I just, I don't know you. And they said, but we're really challenged by you. And I said, what? I was like, what?
You're just doing your thing.
And they were like, you're just doing it. But you're loving, like, unabashedly. I was like, well, what else is there, like, except unabashed love? And they were like, well, we know the history of these people in this town, and you don't care. And I was like, well, I know their history a little bit, and I don't care. Because just because they, like, drink or do drugs or whatever doesn't mean that they still didn't lose their home from a mudslide or whatever. Like, it doesn't mean anything to me. And, like, I had a friend, Brian, he said to me one day, he said, don't get personally involved. And I thought about Baba and the, gross world and then the planes, right? It's like, if I try to solve the problem in the gross world, I miss the experience of going up in the, throughout the planes of the spiritual realm, right? Like, because my mind, wants to solve the problem in this field. But then the reality of it is, if I let my mind go, Baba just takes it up the ladder, and solves it for me. So if I just allow Baba to operate in the spiritual planes, and I stop the noise of the gross world, I can pivot every minute of my day without a problem.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to solve it from the physical plane.
And it's not you who has to solve it.
Nope. So every day when I wake up, I'm like, okay, Baba, here we go.
Yeah, right. What you got for me today?
What you got for me today? And
I'll be your hands and your feet.
Yeah, and usually I have no idea. And people say to me, well, what's your plan? I was like, I don't know. And they say, well, what are you doing in like an hour? I said, I don't know. Because I don't. I literally, that was the gift I think Baba gave me during this whole thing, is that I have learned to live so present.
Yeah.
And, it gives a whole new meaning to present. Because, like, legitimately, I don't know. I don't even make plans anymore.
It's almost a blessing to be this busy because you have to stay current with what's happening.
I do.
Right this minute, because you don't have downtime to worry about the past or future.
No. I thought I was busy before. Oh, my God.
Because you had a homeschool. You had your own kids.
I had a friend that used to say, I was living like 10 lives in one day before.
Because you had a job too.
Yeah, I run a clinic, and I still run the clinic.
You're still running a clinic while this is happening.
Yeah, it's not as busy as it. It goes and comes with busy. Like sometimes
you work by appointment, kind of.
Yeah, I do work by appointment and phone calls. So sometimes I'm on the phone, sometimes I'm in person. That was the day that I came home and sobbed, because I was like at the clinic and taking call, and I was troubleshooting, and we were delivering a camper that day.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't even know all that happened that day, but
it's all a blur.
It was all a blur. But I remember getting home and I just sat on the couch. I just started sobbing. I was like, I'm so tired. And I just started sobbing. Just all the tears came out. And I was like, oh my God, I've never been this tired in my life.
I think the majority of us would have been in tears after day 3, so you did pretty good.
For those people who do like human design, I'm the sleeping cross of the phoenix. So in my human design, I'm a manifesting generator. And all manifesting generators, people say, how do you get so much done in a day? And I was like, it's just how Baba created me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally like that.
You've always been this way.
I have. I've worn my parents out. I've worn my friends out. But I do have like that one moment in time where I collapse.
Yeah.
But usually it's like once every 2 to 3 months, I'll have like one day where I'm just like, I'm done. Done. Uncle. I call Uncle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my husband says, oh, there she goes.
Okay. Battery died.
It's like the phoenix has burnt down to ash, you know? Yeah. But then I rebirth.
You reboot.
Yeah, I rebirth, and I find something else to be passionate about, and then I fire it through, and it's just who I am.
Yeah.
I just don't take it personally anymore. And a lot of people have wanted to do interventions on my personality.
Try and stop you from doing so much.
It's like you just can't stop who Baba created me to be.
Yeah.
There's there's definitely balance, and I've had to learn how to say no. Like the other day, someone said something to me, I said nope.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "Did you say no?" I was like, "Yep."
Yep.
And she was like,
Wow.
"How about this?" And I was like, "Nope." And she's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yep." And I was like, "When have you ever known me to say no?" And she says, "I've never heard you say no." And I said, "Well, that's my new thing. It's like no. Like I do have like a limit, and that's hard for me to say, but I really met my limit with this because
It's everything.
there
You're
was
throwing
so
everything
much.
at it.
It was like everything coming at all at once in every direction, and I was like, Papa, how did I get myself right in the damn not middle of this?
Totally. You're like in the middle.
I was.
Way in the middle of it.
Well, that's when I started sending out my list to people saying, like, just donate directly to these places.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that eliminated all of my patients calling in and saying, like,
Yeah,
how
what
can
to
we
do.
help
Right,
and what do we
right.
do? But we had so many wonderful patients donate so much. I mean, like I said, that one patient, like, who knew? But
How the heck did she
I
end up
mean,
donating 100 campers?
100 campers to the Swananoa area.
So
They were
that's
putting-
over time.
Yeah, they were putting people in hotels.
Mhm.
And I was like, you did what? And then my patient and this girl got to me, and they took a picture and sent it to me.
Oh, so sweet.
I was like, oh my God, what are the chances? They were like, you're our hero, Inga. I was like, me? I was like, I'm not
You just
doing
put them
anything.
together.
I was like, you
You did it
two.
all.
I was like, you two over there, shiny, sparkly, like little angelic beings. We were laughing so hard. Oh my God, I've had some really funny moments like that. Like I had this one guy call me, and I didn't know he was a reporter of some sort. And he's like, he said something to me, and he said, hi, like I'm so-and-so. And I was like, hi, nice to meet you. And he's like, do you need any help? I was like, no, not really. And he's like, well, I'm looking for this person. And he starts telling this story. And I was like, wow, I don't know, but when you find them, will you let me know? And he's like, that's you. I was like, no,
Wait,
it's
what?
not. And we were laughing. And I was like, you're killing me. And he was trying so hard to get me to give him a story. And I was like, I'm not doing it. But he had me laughing so hard, I almost peed my pants. I was dying. I was like, oh my God, you had me going. He's like, no, really? I was like, no, really, you really had me going. Like, there's just really crazy people out there that were just, everybody wanted the story, and they all thought I had it, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm
You're
not.
just an individual doing your thing.
I know. Everybody kept wanting to know who I was with. Who are you with? What's your organization? I was like...
And it's not that you're not cooperating with other organizations.
Right, and I would
but-
say, like, oh, I have lots of organizations, like the
Yeah.
Maribaba Center, like, the Baba community, or, this church or that church, and, they always wanted me to have my own, like,
Yeah, right.
title or my own nonprofit, and, I do know some people who started a nonprofit just like that over this, and
Wow.
they were just Johnny on the spot, and I had this one
That's
lady.
not easy to do because a nonprofit has to have a
Yeah.
board and a certain
But
filing
they did it.
status.
Some of them did it super fast, and I had this one lady who did, and I called her up, and I was like, I found a camper. I need this camper now. This is the camper for this family over here. And she's like, okay. And I was like, can you meet them and give them cash right now? They're going right now. Like it was like,
Wow.
I had one guy from a feed and seed who was willing to drop everything and drive up to Tennessee, and this guy was selling it and needed to get rid of it, and somehow she happened to be halfway in between, and
What?
someone else crossed paths, and they gave him cash, and they got the
And they
camper.
did a little relay race.
Oh my God, I was like, what? I was
That's so great.
It was crazy. And then the family that we gave it to were just thrilled. It was a family with 2 boys, and they were super excited. Just super excited. Yeah. It was, but all the things that like had to happen in order to get it,
It's like a relay race. It's like
It was-
a handoff of a baton.
Oh
And
my God, it's like every day of my life is a relay race. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
crazy. But that's a great example. That is like a really great, like,
so
visual.
like you run your little bit and you're handing it off, and this bit is giving you a baton. You're running it that way. And
Yeah, like I passed the baton today to this guy, Steve. This guy is amazing. I don't know how the angelic beings supported Steve to come into my life, but this
Yeah.
man, Steve, from South Carolina somehow found me.
He's the excavator guy.
He's the excavator guy. I mean, this amazing guy. And he comes up and just starts clearing out garbage like everywhere. He was like my garbage man. I was like, where did you come from? And turn around, let me see your wings. I was like, turn around. Like,
where are your wings?
I was like, I can't wait to hug you. When I meet you, I'm hugging you. Like, you're going to get like 10 hugs from me. I might even jump on top of you and just squeeze you. I was like, oh my God, where did you come from? And he brought a guy who did excavating, and the guy's excavator broke. But, you know, he was back at it today, like figuring out how to navigate and get people garbage removed. And so he talked to another lady today and is arranged for it all to happen tomorrow. And this all happened like today. And so I was like, again,
here you are, you're not even in town and things are happening.
Oh my gosh, I mean, so much happened today. I got, you know, I put out a cry for porta potties.
Yes.
I got porta potties being delivered
What?
this week, and I've got the excavator going back out. I've got 2 places that are getting garbage removed, and
Wow.
I have 8 campers coming. Like, all is happening by Friday. I was like,
Wow. And you're here.
and I'm here. And I'm like, oh boy. I was like, oh boy.
Just direct from afar.
Yeah, today I was a little grumpy this morning. I was like, I gotta go walk with Baba in the woods. I just need to go walk with Baba. And I just
Yeah.
started walking because I was like, it's a lot.
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot. But, you know, it's such a good act of like learning how to surrender control, because I literally have no control. And yet I just have to be sensitive enough to follow the little lines. And
You're
when Baba
directing traffic, but
Yes.
you're not exactly in
Yeah.
control of it.
I'm not in control of any of it. I just have, if it pops up, I have to like quickly think, oh, there, boom.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Quick,
it's
come
like,
up with a solution.
it's like magnetism has to happen somehow, you know, and sometimes I let it go and I don't really know how it's all going to work out. And then 3 campers show up at someone's land and I'm like, well, that wasn't intended. And then Baba has another plan for 3 other people. And, you know, so it's super great and
So
super
awesome.
crazy.
So
and
awesome.
Super awesome. It is really awesome. And I'm super happy that I get to be here for a couple days to celebrate my 50th birthday. And
Congratulations.
thank you.
It's a big one.
It's a
Turning
big one.
50 with all this going on.
I know. As long as I can keep walking the woods, I'll be fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna celebrate. I've got lots of people coming.
that's nice.
Yeah, so we're gonna celebrate. A whole bunch of friends and I are all gonna get together and celebrate. They all have birthdays along the same time,
Okay.
so we're gonna do a big celebration and see what happens. It's just
Keep rolling with Baba's punches.
yeah. So
It's an amazing situation you find yourself in. I mean, this is already the kind of person you are, and here you are given this gigantic task. It's kind of like right up your alley.
yeah. I'm really good at this kind of stuff. I really am.
Yeah.
You know, Marlene, she's a Baba lover, and she was the one who said to me, so you don't want to give the best of yourself. I'll never forget when she said it, because they ran a healing school up in Philadelphia.
Right.
And I remember thinking to myself, nope, you know, I'm good. Like, I don't want to do nursing anymore. I don't want to give the best of myself. And I think if you had asked me that 10 years ago, like what I would be doing, I would never have said what I'm doing now. Like,
How can you even imagine?
I would never. But I realize now, like, it's, oh yeah, I'm giving the best of myself. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
this
giving the
is
best of who I am to Baba.
Yeah.
And it's utilizing all my talents.
Mhm.
You know, I haven't buried any,
Mhm.
not holding my little pile.
Mhm.
You know, like I'm being the fullest person that, you know, I was created to be. And it's, you know, not for everyone. Like I have a very big personality. I'm super energetic and, you know, I'm a nurse. I'm very like, I can be very like meticulous and, you know, I'm critical care nurse too. So like, it's like,
Yeah, right.
know.
Get the job done.
yeah, so I can get a job done. I can be very focused or whatever, you know. So, you know, I just think like, yeah, it's who Baba created me to be. And I always think about how, you know, Baba lovers can be so like different, and how they can really rub each other, and their personalities can be super strong, like Mansari or you know, whoever, you know. And I just think like it really does matter that we are our fullest selves, even if it's not something that other people might like or get along with. So what? So what?
Yeah,
I don't
we
know
were
if
created
that's,
this way.
yeah, that is my, you know, menopause middle age bucket over here. It's like toss it in there, you know, you know.
I think that this time of life, you know, turning 50 is definitely that time of life where ideally you're really manifesting who you are. Like you've picked up enough skills along the way, and at 50 you should be living up to your potential. That's sort of a little theory I have, you know.
It's so true. I mean, it is so true. From, you know, dropping it. Like I had a guy who was he was out, ex-military guy, and he was standing in my living room, and he's like, you know, we're getting ready to go out to here and here and here, and he's like, you know, what do you got for me to bring? And I was like, I got some supplies for IVs. He's like, how do you do that? I was like, you want me to teach you? He's like, sure. I literally, like within 2 minutes, dropped an IV in his arm right there, standing up in my living room, you know, my kitchen door. And the guy walks through the door and he goes, did she just do that while you were standing up? And he's like, dude, it was real, like really fast. I was like, you know, I didn't even put a tourniquet on him. I was
really?
like, no. It's like, your arms are so big. I was like, he didn't even know I poked him. It was kind of like Farron yesterday when you gave him acupuncture. He didn't even know you had stuck him with the needle. And he was like,
oh, wait, there's a needle in it.
you know? So, you know, I just think like, yeah, like my whole life planned like my whole life. It's like all the little things that you had done, you know, I had
all
done.
the skills and all the past experiences.
Training and all my like, my coding skills, like just for like emergencies.
Yeah.
Like my ability to respond super quickly because of like my ICU nursing really kicked in high gear because I did that for so many years.
Right.
So, you know, thinking like super quick and super fast and having to troubleshoot at like these incredible paces was easy because I was
that's
like,
what
well,
you did.
That's what I did for 30 years. So
30 years you were ICU nurse, that's a long time.
Well, 20, 30, yeah. But
it's
like your brain, you don't realize, like you don't actually lose those things.
Yeah.
And even though I might not like know how to do a crike right at the bedside or something right now, you know, I could do some basic things that were really key. But the biggest issue was my brain capacity to like troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Was really important. And so I feel really grateful for my life.
Yeah.
Looking back now, I'm like, oh wow, that's amazing. I never would have planned my life that way, but everything that I've ever done has
placed
really
you in the position to be able to help.
Yeah. And also like help myself, like learning how to take time, like, you know, learning how to like, you know, have a practice, like doing breath work or, you know, getting up to pray or be with Baba or have coffee even and just sit in silence or, you know, having those moments also when everything else is so incredibly hectic. Because sometimes my phone will start ringing at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
So, you know, getting up and we weren't going to bed sometimes till 1 or 2 in the morning. Just felt like there was so much to be done and so many needs. And, you know, we had people in our house like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But I had the intuitive knowing to hire this lady to come cook. So she became part of it because she lost her job cooking. So then someone donated money to have her cook. So she started cooking for 30 people who were coming and going through my house every day. So I didn't even have to think about food for the first month.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. She was just there cooking 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was like,
that's amazing.
I was like, oh, that's one thing I don't have to think about is all the food, you know. And we were just pushing food out to all the different like drop points, and her husband was driving food out and she was cooking the food and people were coming and going, and it was just incredible. And so like, who would have thought like me taking care of myself even before the hurricane, that would have led to me having more of an ability to take care of other people. But I had someone say to me, Inga, like, you remember the wise virgins always had oil in their lamp.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that, and I was like, that's true. Like, I had a lot of oil in my lamp, which allowed me to give out from that place of abundance, not lack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it never felt like I was lacking anything, because I just had always had so much oil in my lamp. And at sometimes that oil felt, oppressive, because it was so much. Like, I always had so much abundance in my home, whether it be like food or this or that. But the reality of it was, like, eventually, like, it panned out, like it filtered out as it needed to.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
You are an inspiration.
Aw, thanks.
You're very high energy.
Well, I just couldn't have done it without all you guys, and the community was so supportive. I mean, I just remember all the blankets coming in, and I remember the faces of these people every time I gave out the quilts and the blankets and the clothes and the socks. And I don't remember who sent those wool socks. They were hand knit wool socks, but those were such a huge hit. So I hope whoever watches this, if someone remembers, there was a little note attached to it, and I remember putting that little note somewhere, and I was like, I'm going to keep that safe, because someone's going to ask me where these came from. And it was like a little Etsy shop that someone got these little hand knit wool socks from. And
Really? How sweet.
oh my God. And that was the other thing that was so sweet, was that people put like little love notes from Baba on things.
In their little
oh my
donations.
God, it was so,
That's so
sweet. It was so sweet. I just remember seeing like Baba pins and Baba notes, and oh my God, so sweet. And someone had stuffed $2 bills in some of the backpacks with like little messages. And
how sweet.
oh my God, it was so sweet. So one of the little girls that we had given a backpack to found a little $2, and of course she was so happy. And I had like a little 2-year-old or 3-year-old that found a $2 bill, and he was so happy. He was like, look! Oh my God, it was priceless.
All that stuff came together so fast, I didn't even see it all.
I mean, it was so much. It was so beautiful. So beautiful. It was really beautiful. I mean, boots and boots and boots.
Yeah.
I remember someone was like, I don't know, you probably don't have my size. I was like, that's not true. We
We
have
have
boots.
everything.
I have like 100 pairs of boots here. Like, we have your size.
Guaranteed.
This is the price is right. Come on. let's
Come
do it.
on. Which size would you like?
It was crazy. Awesome. Great.
What a crazy whirlwind of a time it's been.
Oh my God, I know. So I remember like one day someone had dropped something off, and literally a week later the whole building had gotten emptied out. Like, we had
Wow.
so many people coming and going and coming and going and picking up. And then the next thing I know, like, they were back and they were like, where did it all go? I was like, I know, right? I was
Yeah.
like, it's gone.
It's gone.
Like, people just came and took what they needed and left. And I didn't control it. I was just
Yeah.
like, sure, whatever you need. Like, come on, let's go, And we were bringing stuff out, and it was so crazy.
Incredibly orchestrated.
Yeah, really, the beauty of, like, really being open-hearted, abundant. Yeah, I'm so thankful for this community.
It'd be amazing if somehow we could live that way, but it just seems like that's why Baba has to do these things, to awaken in us this other way of being, because it's hard.
I think we're going into that age. I mean, Baba said we would go into the golden
He
age.
did say that. He did say that.
And I think the golden age is not living from this fear that you have too much. If I give you, you're going to have too much, right? Like, there's this, like, fear.
Or that I'm not going to have enough.
Or you're not going to have enough, right? Like, or you don't need it, or you're going to abuse it, or whatever. Like, we were talking about that tonight down by the boathouse, and I was like, but really, that is not in the spirit. That's in the, that's in the physical plane.
Yeah.
Like, that's still in the world of duality.
This sort of give and take and measuring and looking over your shoulder and
Yeah.
seeing how much you got.
But if we get beyond that,
Yeah.
that's where that radical love really shows itself in
Yeah.
this, like, really epic way that you get to just see. And I'm just seeing, like, these people are just so I had, like, this one woman, she just broke down and she started sobbing. She's like, I've made really bad choices. I've been an alcoholic and I've been abused, and she's like, this is the first time someone's ever just opened up their arms to me
Mm.
and just embraced me and said, yeah, we're going to help you. And she lost everything in the flood, but, you know, still, like, and I just said, well, it's a good opportunity to start fresh.
There you go. There's a reason why the slate gets wiped clean, right?
Yeah. And what am I mean, you know, I lost a sister to drugs and alcohol.
Did
and,
you?
Yeah, and so I was like, you know, who cares? There's a video by Bob Newhart. It's my favorite video in the whole world. It's called Stop It.
Mm.
You can Google Bob Newhart, Stop It. And it is so funny. He's so funny. And so it's a story about this woman who's going in for counseling, and she says, you know, that she's got this fear of being buried alive in a box.
Mm.
And so Bob Newhart gives her advice. And, you know, the basic gist of it is he tells her to stop it. And she's like, so I should just stop it?
Just stop it.
Just stop it. And he goes, new word. He goes, S-T-O-P, new word, I-T. And, you know, we think like sometimes like we have to do all this hard stuff in order to start something new, but really we just have to stop it. We just have to stop the thought, stop the mind games, stop
playing that
criticism,
old record.
Like that record in our mind that keeps telling us the same story over and over and over. And I tell my people that come into our office, I was like, well, they're like, I might have cancer. I'm like, well, that's one possibility. But if God is infinite, then there's infinite possibilities. So stop it. Stop thinking about the one possibility. Let's look at the multiple possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's lots of possibilities. And, you know, I think when we open our mind up to all the possibilities, which I can't think of infinite. I don't know if you can, but to me, infinite is infinite. And even when I'm like my maddest, and I want to throw darts.
We still only got a few possibilities that we can think of.
I've gotten up to like maybe 30, 40
possibilities.
Yeah, not infinite.
Oh yeah,
for sure. And that is such an interesting exercise to like really see my limitations. So when I think about these people who need help, I just think, well, infinite's infinite, so I should infinitely love them because it's infinite.
Right.
Right? Like I don't have to like, you know, try to figure it out for them. Like how they're going to get sober or how they're going to stop drinking or doing drugs or, you know, are they going to be able to make good choices with the home or are they going to have to move somewhere? Like, stop it. I just stop it. I just don't even go there. And that's what Bob says. No, we don't go there. He says, no.
You're just loving them.
Yeah. Just loving them, you know, and just keep continuing to stay open-hearted for that. Yeah. And out of that just comes the most beautiful conversations, just the tears, the collapse, the open-heartedness, the vulnerability.
A lot of people don't have a community where they can just be accepted as they are.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
And I actually think we're very lucky in the Bible world. I mean, we can say all day long, oh, this one's a character, that one's a character. Oh, we're just so full of characters and we're all crazy. But we do
accept people.
But we really do love each other in a way that we don't plan to do. Mm-hmm. We can't plan to love every Bible lover, but we share Bible in common. There's like a family bond. Mm-hmm. We are lucky.
We really are.
That is the core of the new humanity. It starts with that.
Yeah, it really does. It's really sweet.
I can't say that we'd love each other so much that we'd all, like, you know, share our houses with each other. You know, we're not at that point, but
no.
But we do really accept each other,
and that's okay. You know, I think it's okay if there are disagreements and people, you know, rub each other the wrong way. I think there's always, wherever you have that kind of division, you know, it just gives opportunity for someone else to step in to do what is needed. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not ideal, but
we're all doing our best anyway.
That's true.
We're all doing what we can in our limited human self.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for all the time you've given.
Thank you. this has been
for all the generosity from the community, for all the endless fundraising, and for gathering, and the endless nights of people bringing supplies, and I just appreciate it so much. We all do. Everybody does. Every last blanket and shirt and sock. I mean, even the socks did not go unnoticed. I'm just saying, the socks were like huge. That was so sweet. Yeah, and like, the hats. Like, it was such a nice, mix of so many different things that were just so treasured.
It's beautiful.
So treasured.
It's
so
beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. So many things were donated, but it's amazing. The Baba Zoom fundraiser has raised $72,000.
That's incredible. Yeah, really incredible.
When we started from zero, like, this is a fundraiser that's not like some established charity. And
Right.
Baba Zoom itself is not some organization, we're just Baba lovers,
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, you Baba Zoomers. It's like, there's no definition of a Baba Zoomer.
A Baba Zoomer.
There's no
I
such
love
definition.
it.
Like,
I mean,
anybody who wants to participates. It's not like
So-
they're all like within that section of humanity called Baba Zoomers, There's no such thing, How do you define that,
I remember my kids like sneaking on during
Yeah,
COVID.
Ellen used to come on to Artie all the time.
Yep, and they used to sneak on in the middle of the night, like
Because
to go.
she wasn't
see.
supposed to have a phone, right?
They weren't supposed to have an iPad or a phone, and they used to just want to be with Jeff.
Oh,
For
yes.
late night talks with Jeff, so they
yeah.
would like sneak into Elowin's room,
Late at
and they would
night.
like just wait until like I would pass out and go to sleep at 9. Remember the pumpkin?
Yes.
The
9:30
and
it is.
they would all be on the Baba Zoom until like midnight with Jeff, and I finally caught them, and I should never have done this, but I was like, what?
What are you doing?
I was like, you cannot stay up till 12 o'clock at night,
But what a good cause.
But what a good cause. I mean, and sweet, like they remember those moments with you
They
singing,
treasure
like
it, yeah.
Elowin picked up the banjo and started playing because of you.
Yeah.
And,
And Farron was so little, and he'd get on, he'd be like typing, like,
the little
with little hearts and like, weird, like, it would be like, exclamation point, exclamation. It was like long strings of like weird characters, and it would just be so fun.
oh my God, I just so appreciate the community, like again, for accepting them.
Yeah.
Because here,
Absolutely.
here they are kids.
Yeah,
they
but-
don't have the rules necessarily or the boundaries necessarily, and yet they were just embraced.
My whole premise with Baba Zoom is everyone's welcome. Like, we don't need an inclusion statement, because everyone's included. Even non-human species are included. We have regular attendees who are dogs and cats and
So sweet. Oh my gosh.
occasional birds, and
That's so sweet.
we don't need an inclusion statement. Everybody's included.
And really, bridged a gap that was so needed.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID. It was
Yeah.
so needed. And was so inspiring.
Hmm.
There were times when I just felt so alone, and I would just, hop on and I would just be mute in the background or something, and we would just listen, like
Just soak it up.
just soak it up. If I couldn't like be on face for RT or something, I would just have it in the background, and I just appreciate it so much. What an incredible gift
And
to
it's still going
humanity.
on, but the people who come on regularly, that's not who donated to the
Right.
to the fundraiser. It's way bigger than the people who come on to Baba Zoom regularly.
Of
So
course.
when people say you Baba Zoomers, it's like you're talking about the 15 people who come to every meeting, or you're talking about like everyone who donated, which is
Yeah.
way bigger.
Yeah. Well, it's just a greater community, right?
Yeah.
It's
It's
like-
anybody who
Yeah.
I knew. I would forward these emails to every
Yeah.
center I could think of, and they'd forward to their people. And yeah, the GoFundMe is something that every Baba lover and some of their friends are very familiar with,
It's
because
so great.
we just sent out the word, and that's the same as you. I'm just a person. I'm just a
Yeah.
person who's coordinating other people, and it's all just. It's not an LLC or a
Right.
nonprofit or a board or a.
But you don't have a name.
I don't have a name that would be known, Baba Zoom doesn't even have a checking account, you know.
I know.
I just never committed to like having a minimum balance and then like having a name registered for a
Right.
checking account. You know what I mean? You have to have a DBA or an L, or you know, the bank has to have some papers to say
Right.
that you're in existence. I just have a PayPal account for Baba Zoom, and otherwise it's a GoFundMe and a you know.
That's so great. What an amazing gift.
It is. It's the full flexibility of the internet and the network of people that we know, right?
So amazing. Yeah, what a gift. What a gift. And, you know, I just think, like, how amazing that you even took a chance and was like, yes, let's do this. Let's support them.
Absolutely. I was thrilled that you were doing work on the ground.
I mean, who knew? I had no idea I was going to land right in that little soup pot.
I was, you know, this is also 4 or 5 days out, right? I was in a situation where Daniel Files is like, I want to go. I want to bring stuff. What can I bring? I know they need stuff. And I'm like, I have no clue. And then somehow Michael Ivey came up and he told me that you were doing all this stuff. I was like, oh my God, I have someone to ask, what do you need? And someone to take it to you. And now we can actually have a fundraiser to support this, because otherwise, where would I send stuff, you know?
Let me tell you, Michael Ivey, he is like one of my heroes.
He's a treasure.
He is such a treasure. And, you know, again, I when he left my house, I cried.
Aww.
I cried so hard. I was like,
your right-hand man is gone.
I think I've adopted him. I was like, I just fell in love with Michael
He was
Ivey.
in your house for 4 weeks or
yeah, probably
post-
5 weeks. 5
post-Helene.
weeks he stayed, and he's at my house right now. And honestly, like, we talked about it. I said, Michael, if like, you're welcome to move in. Like,
Yeah, just move in.
I was like, it's so easy with him. He's such an amazing guest, and
he'd help you run errands and.
oh my God, he did so much. I mean, he did so much, from filming people, for people who, you know, were donating, to running errands, to packing up supplies, to serving people, to laundry, to dishes. I mean, he just chimed in and did whatever, wherever, whenever, and he never complained. He always did it with a smile, a can-do attitude, and just was like legitimately just a shiny little spark of love that I'm proud to call him my friend and love him, like, deeply. I'm like, golly, what an amazing man.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally said to him, like, we need a family compound now.
just a little hut there.
You're initiated. I mean, you know, it's not easy to live in the house where 30 people are coming and going every day, and
let alone just your own family.
Yeah, I mean, things were breaking and falling, and like my chairs were getting broken because the kids were like bouncing, and, you know, I mean, it's just life, right?
Yeah.
But, like, you know, it never deterred him. It never deterred him. He
lived in that circus and it was fine.
Yeah, and not only did he live in it, he supported me in it. He was a huge emotional support, and he brought Baba, like, with him.
Yeah.
And he brought Baba's words, and he was always encouraging, and he was always pulling out, like, a quote, a Baba quote, and always sweet, you know. And I have, like, a little jar that has, like, a bunch of Baba quotes in it, and he was telling me that the Mandali, the women, had a jar that had Baba quotes in it.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, and I thought that was so fascinating. I was like, I have a jar. I have a jar. Because it came from a Baba birthday party that Jeannie threw one time. And we had piñatas, and the piñatas were stuffed with Baba quotes. And they were just going to sweep up the quotes and throw them away. And I was like, someone cut those up. I was like, I want all those quotes. I was just like, stuffing them in jars. And, you know, it became like this, like, really funny thing. But, like, I love that jar. Like, everybody comes by and, like, you know, we'll pull out Baba quotes and sit around and just talk about what we got.
Oh, that's so great.
What Baba's saying. And I think, you know, what a treasure.
That is a treasure.
But I really, really valued Michael being there.
Yeah.
To bring Baba quotes, or, you know, to share with people coming and going. And he just was so valuable.
Incredible.
But everybody was, you know,
Yeah.
down to like Buzz. Like Buzz one day called me and I was leaving somewhere and he was like, I didn't even know it was him on the phone. I don't even think he introduced himself or said, "Hey, this is Buzz," or maybe he didn't. I didn't even know. But I was in like a daze because I had just left somewhere and it was so traumatic, the devastation, and I just like started crying. I was like,
that was like one of your big days at Fairview, one of
Yeah.
your early days.
and I was like, oh my God, like, and Buzz was listening and he was just talking and I just was like, I remember cursing. I was so raw. I was just like, wah, 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 you know, and I was just letting it rip. And Buzz was super supportive and super, you know, compassionate and just listened and was really there for me that day. And I really needed someone. Someone said, "Yeah, you know, he's a counselor." I was like, well, that was a perfect job for that moment because I really needed someone, exactly what I needed that day. I mean, he was exactly what I needed in that moment at that specific time, and he called. And, you know, I just felt so grateful just to be heard. I just needed to be heard that day, you know. But there were so many moments like that, you know, moments when you called and listened, and, you know, there are so many wonderful things about this community that I just feel were invaluable. Could not have done it without the Bible community. So sweet. And the heart of like just knowing that I was being held by the center and by the community and by the people who love God the way I love God.
Yeah.
You know, and in their own way, but it was so sweet. It brings tears to my eyes. I'm like, I love this place.
Oh, yeah.
So great.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks again. It's so late. I'm sorry I kept
Yeah.
it so late. I'm like, oh,
I kept
my
you
heart
up
is
late.
stopping. Look at the
It's-
melting process.
It's
happening.
past your bedtime. It's pumpkin time.
Oh, pumpkin time. The melting has happened.
Yeah.
Softening of my heart.
Oh, Jay Baba.
J Baba, honey.
Ooh, biggest hugs. Jay Baba.
Coming.
Yeah.